Stampers, it's Kim Vogel with the Basement Bunch Stampers here for another terrific Tuesday video. Today I'm going to showcase for you a neat little technique that uses up lots of different scraps that you may have laying around. It's referred to as the Sunburst Technique, and I made this cute, simple Christmas themed card using lots of scraps that I had left over from my Quilted Christmas Designer Series paper. This paper is in the holiday catalog, and it is part of our Quilted Christmas suite. And I use this paper for tons of projects and have just lots of scraps left over. And so this is the card that I created with those scraps. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you how I went ahead and made this card. So what I started out with was my base. My base is real red, and this is the standard card size here in the US. It's 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, and so that becomes the base of my card. And then I cut 2 pieces of cardstock in Whisper White. One is cut 3 by 5, and the other is cut 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to be eventually layering these two together like this. Let me bring my sample in. But first I want to add all of those scraps to this piece before I do anything further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive on the entire piece of my 3 by 5, and I'm using Fast Fuse. You could also use snail if you prefer, but I am going to be adding adhesive to every single part of the front of this because I want these pieces to adhere really, really good. The only problem with Fast Fuse is that it is very sticky, so it was sticking to my fingers when I made my sample, so bear with me if that happens again. But let me finish filling this all in. If you haven't checked out my website, I encourage you to do so at kimsbasementbunch.com. I offer lots of classes online, and I encourage you to check it out. And simply by putting in an order through my online store, you can get a kit sent in the mail directly to you. So I went ahead and added adhesive to that, and I'm going to set it to the side now. And I want to explain to you how I cut my pieces of paper. So my piece of paper, I cut these at 1.5 by 4.5, and then I cut from diagonal to diagonal to have it into 2 different pieces. And I'm going to show you how I did that with my paper trimmer. So let me bring that in, and I'm going to bring in one of the scraps of paper that I did not cut yet. So again, this is cut to 1.5 by 4.5. And all I did was lined up, this is the groove right here where you're going to be cutting. And so I lined up the top point and the bottom point on that groove. And then I just closed it up, made sure it was where it needed to be. And then I just sliced it. And so that's how I cut those into 2 different pieces. Very, very simple. So I did a bunch of those in advance, and this is where you get to have fun with it because you get to use different varied paper depending on the colors that you want your card to be. I'm going to bring in a piece of grid paper here because I want to show you how you line up the beginning of this. So up at the top here is the number 0, and it goes out 1 to 8 on both sides. So I'm just going to figure out the center of this. So there's my center. I have 2.5 on each side. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to figure out where to put this first one. And I'm going to line it up, the point on the bottom, on that line where the 0 is. Oops, I moved it a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that I line that straight up. And once you have that first one in place, you no longer need the grid paper. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of here. And then from here, you just keep adding your paper depending on the different variation that you want for your pattern to look like. So again, I've got a bunch of these cut in advance. And so I'm just going to start adding some. Again, I'm adding the point down to the bottom. And I'm just kind of hanging on to that on the bottom. You can see I have some flexibility to move this piece because I want to be able to get that as flush as I can with this red gingham piece. Okay, and now I'm going to add, let's go with a solid or up close to solid green. And again, I'm trying to get that peak at the very bottom, and that's going to be covered up. So if it's not perfect, it's okay. Close is good enough, and you'll see what I mean as I finish out this card. So while I'm doing this and while you're kind of watching me put this down, If you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I encourage you to do so. I do a video every single Tuesday, and I also give away something on my website every single Tuesday as well, simply for commenting on my video. So, you know, I encourage you to bookmark my YouTube channel and check me out every Tuesday. I also offer classes online that I post the beginning of every single month. Simply by placing an order with a hostess code, you would be able to pick out one of my kits. So I encourage you to do that as well. I'm also on Facebook, so feel free to search for Kim Vogel's Basement Bunch Stampers and like my page and ask to join my group. I do have both a group and a page, and I'm looking for new people to check me out. So I'm going to end this one with a solid red. And so what I basically created is a great big fan, okay? But what I want to do is make sure these are all glued down really good. And then I'm going to take my paper snips, and I'm just going to cut off all the way around this piece of cardstock. And again, this is all going to be scraps. So you're probably wondering why I cut these so big. Well, because as you start to fan out, I didn't have as much on the bottom, so I kind of needed them to be big enough that I wouldn't have some be short as I was making that fan. So again, I'm just going to cut all around here and get those out of the way. And that leaves me with a piece that looks like that. And then from there, what I did is I went ahead and I adhered this to my piece of Whisper White that I cut, whoops, that is 1/4 of an inch bigger than this. So this is cut 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down onto that. And then I adhered this onto my real red base. So let me get that adhered on here. And you'll see what I mean by my points going to be covered up here in a little bit, because what I did in advance is I also punched out a couple of circles. I punched out a 2 1/4 inch circle out of real red and a 2-inch circle out of white, and I just simply adhered these two together. And then I used dimensionals to pop this up, and I'm not going to actually take the time to finish this card because I think by looking at my sample you'll be able to kind of see what I did to finish the card. But I went ahead and adhered this onto there like that. And then I used one of the stitched felt embellishments that is also part of the quilt product suite. I used the star on my sample, but you could also incorporate a tree if you wanted to. We could also incorporate the little holly if we wanted to. Oops, dump them all out on there. But look at the cute little card that I made just by doing and using samples. Let me put them in there so you can see. So I hope that you've enjoyed my quick little video today, and I hope that again you check me out at kimsbasementbunch.com and to look back for a video every single week. Sometimes I do techniques, sometimes I do a 3D project, just depends what I have up my sleeve that I feel like doing. So I hope you enjoyed this video today, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great day.